you're watching me on YouTube and Facebook, hello, and hi, TikTok. All right, for the best experience, it is best if you come over to YouTube and Facebook. But wherever you're watching me from, go ahead and click the share button, and we're going to get started in just a second. Hope everybody's doing well. Good stuff. All right, so let's go ahead and get ourselves together. We are talking today on this topic. You were made to be found. You were made to be found. I've actually never gone live on my iPad before, so this is a little bit different. Let me know that you can hear me and see me okay on Instagram. And hello, YouTube and Facebook, and hello, TikTok. Welcome, everyone. We are going to talk today on this topic. You were made to be found. For all of the ladies watching, I have something very exciting that I want to share with you, and we're going to definitely get into it right away. And another thing I want to let you know is that if you want to get the replay of this, I'm going to go ahead and put the link in the chat over on TikTok and on Instagram, and we'll pin it as well. And then you'll be able to share it and also know about it so that you can get the replay. So let me go ahead and write those in the chats now before we get started. Say hi as you come on in. Say hello. Hi, Instagram. Hello, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. Hello, everybody. Let's go ahead and see. Let me know that you can hear me and see me everywhere. We're going to get started. I've got a really good topic for you. It's called You Were Made to Be Found. And let me just make sure I've got all my links up. This is going to be a really good one. So I highly recommend that you stick around, or if you want to get the replay, I'm going to go ahead and put the links in the chats for you as well. Made to be found. I got a spelling mistake there. How's everybody doing? How is your day going? Just while I get myself together here with these links. Let me see. I need to spell this right. Made to be found. Let me go ahead and pin that now. Okay, so that's pinned for you there on Instagram, and it's also here on YouTube and Facebook. And let me go ahead and pin it over here on TikTok as well. But while you're waiting for me to do that, please do go ahead and say hi as you come on in. Say hello. Let me see if this works. Okay, no, this is not working. That's fine. Don't you just love it when all the technology decides it doesn't want to work the way you want it to work? Okay. Just making sure all my links are working. So if you want the links to the replays, then use that link that I've just posted in all the chats. So you'll be able to do that. And if you're on YouTube and Facebook, it's right there for you. You can just go to it at any time. So I'm going to jump straight into what I want to share today. It's going to be something that I haven't really spoken about before, but we're talking about this idea of you were made to be found. And if you have any questions as I get into what I'm teaching today, then please do go ahead and type it in the chat. Let me know if you have any questions or any comments, whatever. And it's going to be something that I have been studying, reading about, praying about for some time. But today felt like the right time. When you just think about what you want to say and how you want to share things. And today we're talking about this topic, you were made to be found. And we're talking about the feminine secret that makes a godly man stop, notice, and pursue. So it's very, very niched. All right. So we're talking about what it is that actually makes a godly man stop, notice, and pursue. Because if you are listening to this training today, something in you already knows that maybe you've been doing things, hasn't been working out the way you would like. Okay. So when we think about our lives, we're accomplished, we're anointed, you love God, you've done the inner work, and maybe you've even gone to therapy, you've read the books, you've watched different YouTube channels, you've been to all these different conferences, you've spoken to this person, you've spoken to that person, you prayed about it, and yet here we are today. You're often respected, right? People admire you. They often talk about how pretty you are and things like that. But when it comes to actually being pursued by a godly, established, intentional man, you're not always seeing that connect, right? And the first thing I want to let you know today is that there's nothing wrong with you. There is absolutely nothing wrong with you. That is not the reason. And the question, sometimes we ask ourselves, like, what is wrong with us? But before we go any further, I want to make it crystal clear that it's usually not to do with that, right? It is to do with some other things that we're going to talk about today. And usually it's to do with misalignment in what you're projecting, what you're giving off, misalignment with how you are being received, and sometimes misalignment with where you are, where you're positioning yourself, where you're allowing yourself to show up. Sometimes it's not really giving you the results that you desire. And so I'm going to get into that today. My name is Rachel-Yvonne McIntosh. I'm a theologian, I'm a preacher, and I am a Christian-based dating coach. And for years, right, I have sat in different spaces, spoken to women of all ages that probably just like you watching this today. And even for the gents that are watching, because I know sometimes men watch just to kind of get a sense of what I'm sharing and things like that. And I understand that. But this is really, really geared towards the women. So if there's a woman that you know needs to learn these things, then definitely share it with them and let them know that I am live and this is something they can keep. And the replays are going to be up. So I'm saving the replay. And if you want the replay, just use the link that I've shared in the comments or that's going across the bottom. And you can definitely save the replay for you to watch in the future and listen to it as well. And so when it comes to what I've been doing over these past few years, is that most of the time women who are brilliant, let me just check a few things. Most time you're a woman who is brilliant, you love God, you've got all these things going for you. And it's not about whether or not you're gorgeous or not, right? Because my network is filled with stunning women. Like every day I am on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, just liking pictures and saying, "Oh my gosh, you look amazing." Like, and I'm hearting your stories, I'm responding to your stories and saying how great you are. So it's not about looks. And that is something that sometimes we don't really get. And you're genuinely like such a sweet person, you love the Lord, you want the best for your life, your family, etc., and things like that. And sometimes you just cannot really understand why a godly, established, and generous man isn't, hasn't found you yet, right? And today we're going to dive into that. And what I discovered in my years of research in this, praying about it, and speaking with many of you who I've done coaching with you, or you've been in my classes or in any of my memberships, etc., is that it was never about your standards. Because some people try to use the lie that, oh, their standards are too high, and that's why they're not being pursued. But that isn't the reason. It's also not about appearance, right? Because let's face it, you're stunning, you're beautiful, you look after yourself well, you dress well, you have all those things going for you. And if you don't, you're well on your way. And it's also not about your faith, because you have the faith to believe. You're praying, you're fasting, you're believing. So the faith is not the problem. It's usually something a lot more fundamental. And unfortunately, I'm a church girl. I'm a third generation minister, and I've been in church my entire life. And that is, my main kind of field of network and so on and so forth. I've been to thousands of conferences. I've preached at so many churches all over the world, and I've traveled everywhere, and it's similar problems everywhere, you know. Let's just face it, that's really what we're talking about today. And a lot of times churches don't really teach this, coaches don't address this, you know. And most of the time when I speak to you all, I realize that you don't even realize that these are some of the reasons. And so over the course of the next few minutes, I'm going to tell you what it is. I'm going to give you the theology behind it, the truth of it, and I'm actually going to give you some practical shifts that will help change the way that you move, the way that you're perceived, and the way that godly men actually respond to you. These are really important points. So I want you to understand that we're going somewhere very specific with what we're going to be sharing today. And so I also want to be honest with you about where we are, okay? Is that I know sometimes, ladies, you can be tired as well. And I know you're not tired of God and you're not tired of your faith. And it can be more a sense of being tired of doing everything by yourself. And I was talking to somebody yesterday about how sometimes there's a lack of honesty, and there's a lack of honesty where women try to pretend that, oh, I'm fine by myself, but secretly you still want to be married. Oh, you know, I don't need a man for blah, blah, blah. But secretly you do still desire to be with someone. You desire companionship. You desire to be with someone. And those things, there's nothing wrong with that. And sometimes also we can be tired of being the one that everybody calls because they know that you're going to be the one who's going to be dependable, etc. You're respected, you're celebrated. Maybe you even have a career, a reputation. You have maybe even a ministry, but it's not translating into being loved the way you actually want to be loved. And if we're honest, you maybe have even been married before, or you've been in a relationship before, or you may even have children. Like there's such a vast spectrum that ladies that are in my community or who might be watching this now, you come from all different spectrums of life and experience. But when it comes down to the quiet moments, when you're by yourself, when we strip away at your achievements or, you know, the armor that you put on, and you actually just want to be loved. And there's nothing wrong with that. And if that's a desire for you, you can go ahead and drop a 1 in the chat. If that's something that you desire, like you really desire to be loved for who you are, to not have to put on a charade, not have to pretend or to show up as a completely different person. If you desire, you know, that you want to be pursued, you want to be protected, you want to be provided for, you desire to be covered. Those are powerful things. And if that's you, then drop a 1 in the chat right now for me so I can just see, you know, who we're talking to in this space. And then here's the thing as well, is that you want a man who leads, yeah? A man who sees you and can't walk away, right? Like we all love those moments in movies, or when we see that in the room where things shift, where we see that a particular woman you might see might have a particular effect on men. You're like, wow, how does she do that? Or you want to have this idea of a godly man in your life without you having to ask, because that's also something that we don't want to do. We don't want to have to be asking for a man to show up. We want him to know who he is. And this is a deep longing, right? Like this is something that is in our spirits, that we know that it's not too much to ask. We've seen it happen. We see maybe friends and family who might have this kind of lifestyle that we think, but I know for a fact that God put that desire inside of you. It's a godly desire. And I know there are people on the internet who love to say things like, oh, you shouldn't want, you shouldn't want, you shouldn't want. That's not true. That is not true. We never see in scripture where anybody ever got anything by letting go of their desires. It was always persistent, and it was always consistent in saying, this is what I know and believe that God has for me, but I am going to keep going until I get it. But the version of you that's been showing up, right, as capable as she is, as anointed as she is, Sometimes you are sending out a signal that makes it difficult for the kind of man to pursue you. And sometimes you can appear to be unavailable. And let's just be honest about that. Sometimes when even you, okay, so we're on social media right now, you're watching this online somewhere. If you're watching the replay, you're watching this through YouTube or something, or you're listening to my podcast or something like that. And when you appear, like say, for example, on social media, I see women complain sometimes and they're like, oh, so-and-so was in my DMs, or why are they responding to my story? Aren't they supposed to? Aren't they supposed to reach out and say, oh my gosh, you look pretty, or you're gorgeous, or I'd love to take you out? Isn't that what you should be seeing online? Isn't that what you should be seeing? Shouldn't you be seeing those kind of messages, those kind of interactions when you post a story? Isn't that what you should be seeing? So then why do we go online and then say things like, oh, men are so thirsty? And when you do things like that, you repel what you're asking for. That's why you'll never see me post content like that. Have you ever seen me post content like that? Have you ever in your life? No, never. You know why? Because when you know who you are, you know that in order to receive what it is that God has for you, you must be open and ready to receive it. So let's go back to the book of Genesis. So let's, obviously everything I do is foundational with the Bible. Like, we are following the scriptures. And yes, there are no scriptures about dating. There are no scriptures about pursuing and things like that specifically, but we can use principles that God gives us in the word. And so when we look at Genesis, because this is where everything begins in the book of Genesis, when God created Eve, he created her, and she was brought, she was presented, she was received by Adam. She was not searching for him. She did not strive to receive him. She did not perform for his attention. And she wasn't presenting her credentials. Do you already see maybe where some areas where you may have done things that might be repelling what you're actually looking to receive in your life? And I will say this before I continue. This is not just connected to dating or men or marriage, but it's also probably connected to other things in your life. She was prepared, created for Adam. Genesis chapter 2, verse 22 says that God brought the woman to the man. And the Hebrew word there means to come, to enter, and to be brought into a place. She was carried into her destiny by God himself. And when Adam saw her, the scripture says and shows us the first human words that are spoken in the Bible as a declaration of recognition. Instantly, he recognized her. He saw her and he knew. Now, I'm going to tell you something, and it's probably going to sound like airy-fairy, but I know for a fact that when a man sees you and he sees you in your full glory and your full beauty and whatever, there are moments where he will look at you and say, she's the one. And you might say to me, Rachel, it's never happened to me. How do you know? How do you know it's never happened to you? I know it's happened to me. And I know it's happened to many women. And you also are not, you're not alien to that either. And I know some of you are saying things like, it's the Garden of Eden. It was perfect, before sin, etc. And it was perfect conditions. And yes, you're right about it. But this is something that you've got to get clear in your mind, is that the redemptive work of Christ is not just about your soul. It's about your restoration to the original design. So when Jesus redeems everything by the cross, by his blood, we step into everything that was redeemed. So the redemptive work of Christ also works for how we see each other as men and women. You were made to be found, which is what we're talking about here today. And this is something that is positioned where you are present and deeply, fully yourself. So back to Eve in the garden. Eve showed up because God created her for Adam, and she didn't perform. She was just who she was, right? And the Bible says, as you probably know, and even if you don't know, I'm about to tell you, he saw her immediately and knew that she belonged to him. So when you are simply being, when you are not performing, that's why you'll notice that I don't believe in performance femininity. I don't believe in showing up as feminine for the right person in the right situation. La la la. I don't believe in that. I think that's quite fake and performative. I believe that when a woman is in her divinely godly feminine energy, she shows up as herself in every situation. Yes, you have boundaries, so everybody doesn't have the same level of access to you and your softness, obviously. But in terms of, are you feminine in one situation and not feminine in that situation? Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. You are a woman through and through. When you are simply being fully, unapologetically feminine, and that is the presence that stopped Adam. This is what I like to call the feminine secret that we're actually uncovering today. All right. And so if you're enjoying this, drop some hearts here, and let me know that you're enjoying what I'm putting down today. So when I talk about magnetism, right, it is not a strategy for me. Being magnetic is not something that it's not a strategy for me. It really is coming home to yourself. When you are in your natural essence and you're confident, you're yourself, you feel good, you look good, you are magnetic. Magnetism is actually the natural result of a woman who has come home to herself. Did you hear what I said? I said that magnetism is the natural result of a woman who has come home to herself. So what does this actually mean? What does this actually mean, and what does it look like in a practical sense? And I'm going to give you something very specific that if you're writing notes, you will come back to this over and over again. The first thing you need to do is stop leading. Yes, for all of you girl bosses out there, myself included, when you are a leader, so I'm a natural leader, right? So I was retaking some personality tests the other day, and I was like, oh, yeah, all the answers were as I thought because I know myself very well. And I'm a natural leader. I'm very strong. I'm very ambitious. I like to be right. I like to do things well. I have excellence as a part of my makeup and things like that. And so I had to learn this. I made this mistake in past relationships, in past lives. I am 42 years old and I've had quite a few lives. I have had quite a few lives. But in this, most recent updated version of Rachel-Yvonne, I've learned that to stop leading. And I'm not talking about your career because, you'll need to do what you need to do in different parts of your life. I'm not talking about your ministry. I'm not talking about the gifts and the callings that God has placed on your life at all. But I'm talking about what happens in relational dynamics, specifically as it relates to men. And for many of you that are watching today or listening to this, you've spent so long being the capable one in your family, in your church, in your workplace. You're the dependable one, you're capable, that you bring that same energy into your reactions and interactions with men. You follow up first. You initiate the deep conversations. You solve the problems. You create the momentum. And here is what you need to understand, and I'm going to repeat this quite often, is that it takes some time to unlearn things that you've been doing. And especially when we look at things online or we have other people in our lives who may have got things a particular way. And then that can hinder us as well, because when you bring that masculine energy into the room will go quiet because it has nothing to do. You've done it all. When you're the one, I was responding to some threads today, and I asked this lady, I said, hey, so she was just talking about a situation that she was going through. And I love to respond to all of these kind of questions and circumstances and scenarios that people present, whether they're fake or not, doesn't matter to me. And I asked her a question. I said, oh, are you always double texting? Are you always the one who initiates and things like that? And when you fill up all the space, he has nowhere to step into. And here is what is interesting, is that when we get into someone, when we enjoy the interaction, when we enjoy their energy, we get excited, right? The feminine gets excited, and we want to reach out. We want to say things because we want to share things with them about our day. And I'm not saying there is something wrong with that. There's a time and a place for that when that person has earned that level of intention. So you don't want to be giving everything to everybody immediately. If you're deep into things, if you're engaged, you're married, you're pursuing something together, then that's a very different scenario to when you're first interacting with him, when you're first speaking to him. You want to give him space to be able to lead the conversations. When you fill up all the space, he's got nowhere to put himself. And it doesn't mean that you're playing games, because this is what some people think is about playing games. And it's like, it's never about playing games, because when you're very busy and you have a full life, you have hobbies, you have family. Just before I went live here, one of my nephews wanted to come on in, and I'm just like, no, Elijah, I will come and see you in a moment. So there are millions of things you could be doing in that moment, and understand that pulling back is not manipulation. Some people teach it in a way of like, oh, you're manipulating the space. But when you allow him space to lead, you need to understand that you are showing wisdom and you're creating space for him to move towards you. He will make a decision. Let him make the decisions about what he would like to do next. Even though you might think, oh my gosh, have I met my husband? Oh my gosh, have I met him? I think he's the one. I think he's the one. And you're like so giddy and you're excited. We're girls. This is what we do. We get excited, get butterflies. We're like super engaged in what's going on. But when you have discretion, which is a part of the fruit of the spirit, self-control, you realize that sometimes we have not been taught to apply this to our romantic lives. So we haven't been taught to apply discretion to our dating and to how we appear to people. You want to jump in the group chat and tell everybody. You want to post on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, blah, blah, blah. You want to share all these things, but learn to keep things to yourself. And I'm only sharing these things with you because I've learned these things the hard way. And my goal is so that you don't have to learn the hard way. I'm here to be your big sister, whether I'm older than you or younger than you. Trust me, I've lived a lot of life in my 42 years of living. And it's wisdom to know what to reveal and when. You don't need to tell him everything up front, and learn how to be present without being fully exposed. You can be present, you can listen, you can engage, you can be into the conversation of what's happened, be warm without being wide open. Discretion is what creates the intrigue, where he's like, I remember I was reading through some texts or something yesterday, and I was laughing at some conversations that I'd had. And I was saying to myself, I remember someone saying to me that, oh, that I am elusive and you're very like mysterious. And I laughed because I realized that when you are who you are, you will be who you are. So you're never performing, you are being who you are, because you understand that there are levels of access that need to be earned along the way, right? When a man shows up as being trustworthy, as someone that you can, who has proven himself to be someone that can pour into you, then he will have a right to new accesses, right? That's healthy dialogue and healthy things like that. And so when you allow yourself to do that, the second thing is you have to learn how to receive. You have to learn how to receive. And this one is a lot harder than it sounds. And this is probably the hardest thing that I've found women, in particular, women who are strong, women who are ambitious, women who have learned to depend on themselves. You often find this the hardest part to do. And receiving is a spiritual discipline. And most high achieving, Holy Spirit led women are terrible at receiving. When someone compliments you, for example, what do? Do you receive it fully, or do you deflect? Do you deflect? Or do you immediately have to respond with a compliment? Now, there are natural situations where it is the natural thing to respond with a compliment. But sometimes it's okay just to say thank you so much, talk about something else, and then later on bring the compliment in. When you are receiving, it requires vulnerability. It requires you to acknowledge that you need something, that you want something, and that you cannot do everything alone as well. And for a woman, when you've built your identity around, being capable and being strong, that can feel dangerous. And I understand that. But a man who is designed by God to provide, to protect, and to cover you, he is activated when a woman can receive. Sometimes I do know what's best, but you know what I like to do? I like to ask questions. I like to ask, hey, what do you think about this? Hey, I've been thinking about this. I feel like I want to do this. What do you think about it? And I might already have the answer, but I honestly also love to practice listening and taking on other opinions, even if it doesn't mean that you're always needy. But when you are a woman who cannot listen and doesn't know how to receive, then it will make him stop doing the things that, those type of things. He's gonna, yes, exactly. Thank you so much. Receiving doesn't always mean giving back. And sometimes as ladies, we have to learn to be like, just say thank you. Oh, thank you. Oh my gosh, your hair looks so good. I love your dress. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Like, you don't have to fill the energy with anything else. If you can't receive a compliment, then I guarantee you don't have to receive provision. If you can't receive help with a bag, that means you also can't receive covering. So, for example, I was out shopping today, and I was out in Marks and Spencer's, which is like it's my favorite place to shop for food and stuff. But anyway, this is Marks and Spencer's, and a man like almost walked into me, and he was like, "Oh, sorry." And then he said to me, "Oh, can he carry my basket?" I was like, "Oh yeah." I said, "Oh, thank you." Even though it wasn't heavy, he carried it to the till. And I said, "Thank you so much." That was it. I don't assume that he wants something. I know that he was apologetic from bumping into me, and he saw that I had things in my basket, and he wanted to help me. Now, could I carry the basket? Of course I can carry the basket. Duh. But I practice receiving in my everyday life. My nephews, I've got 2 nephews. I've got nieces as well, but specifically my nephews, I let them help me. So were they like, I was taking my nephew Elijah out the car today, and I banged my knee against the door, and he's like, "Oh, Auntie, you okay?" And I said, "Oh, I just banged my knee." And he was like, "Oh, do you need some help?" I said, "Yes." He's 3. What help can he provide me? He's 3 years old. But I'm teaching him that when you see a woman who is hurt or is around you, you always offer help. He's like, "Auntie, do you need some help?" "Yes, baby, you can take my bag." "Yes, baby, here's my phone, carry it for me." And he's used to that. So he's growing up knowing this is what you do. This is what you do. And I tell the older one too, like, never let your mom have to carry things by herself. Always ask her if she needs some help. And if she says no, that's fine, but you always want to be ready. And so they use that. That's how they are, because I teach them as we go along. And so these things are connected. You won't be able to receive covering. And a lot of women feel like they do what they want in their single season, and then you expect things to be turned on when you get married. No, it's not going to work that way. I'm going to tell you this right now. You will find it a lot more difficult to receive. You'll find it a lot more difficult to be soft with your husband. You're going to find it a lot more difficult to do certain things when you are not practicing these things in your everyday life. These things are all connected. And the third thing and final thing that we're going to wrap up with today is that you have to return to your feminine essence. And I want to be clear about what I mean, because sometimes people don't understand and they misconstrue what I'm saying here. Being feminine, your feminine essence is not like about wearing a dress. Yes, I am a woman who only wears skirts and dresses, but it's not about wearing a dress. It's not about having long hair. It's not about having short hair. It's not about heels. It's not about blah, blah, blah. It's not those things. Those things are only aesthetics. And yes, they can add to make you feel feminine and beautiful and sexy and so on. Don't get me wrong, they do work, but it's an essence. It's an essence about who you are. It is the quality of what you carry. It is the presence of who you are. It's the energy you carry when you understand that you're not actually trying to prove anything to anyone. And it's not always about being passive, because sometimes people think that, does a feminine woman mean that you're just like quiet, you shut up, and you're always like downtrodden? No, that's not what it means. It's about a confidence of knowing who you are. You know you don't always have to speak. You know you don't always have to be first. You know who you are. It means that you know who you are. And that is the kind of woman that a godly man cannot walk away from. That shows up in every space that you are, because Holy Spirit femininity is never going to be about you shrinking back from who God has called you to be. It's always about coming home to your original essence. You simply need to be fully present, because when you're fully present, your presence is magnetic. When you're engaged, when you're interested. And so I have a declaration that you can do it with me right now, or you can do it on your own. And if you want to catch the replays for this, just use the link that's there, which is bit.ly /made to be found. And you'll have that video to always watch forever and ever. And here's a declaration that, if you know me, you know I love affirmations. Even when I'm preaching, I will always get the congregation to repeat an affirmation, say, I am this, or I was born for this, because there's power in your words. That if you just take a breath, wherever you are right now, just take a breath. I want you to relax and just really allow yourself to unclench everything that you've been holding on. You've been holding on to the energies of the day. Maybe you're cooking dinner. Maybe you're putting the children to bed. Maybe you're picking up the kids. Like, I don't know what your routine is right now, but this is something that's going to be a powerful declaration for you today. I was made to be found. I release the striving. I release the performing. I release performing and proving. I reclaim my godly femininity as my birthright. When we talked about Eve, remember how she was positioned? And realize this as well. I am not too much. I am not too little. I am precisely who God designed me to be. And I declare, this is especially for my single ladies here, I declare that the right man at the right time, led by Holy Spirit, will see me clearly. Because I am no longer hiding behind my capability. I am coming home to myself, and I am ready to be found. Now, for some of you, you've never said anything like that. You've never admitted your true desires. And I want to tell you something that I know to be 1000% true. When you declare things, when you start to say things, even if it feels weird or whatever, you will start to see more of those things show up in your life. And so what I've shared today really is the foundation, and it's the beginning of a shift that when you walk it out fully, it changes not just how you show up, but how you are perceived and quality that comes into your life. So I do have a membership that's coming up. We haven't opened yet. It's called The Desired Woman. And I actually have a book as well called The Desired Woman. And inside that book, I talk about these concepts that we're talking about today. And you can definitely get it. It's on Amazon. It's in all of my links that you might see floating around wherever. And I really want you to understand something, that when you position yourself in the way that God has created you to be, everything in your life shifts. Everything in your life changes. And the membership that I'm building and creating, it is the most sacred, most theologically grounded, practically specific space that I've ever created. And it's specifically for women who are single, who are unmarried. Even those who are engaged and you've been engaged a long time, been in a relationship for a long time, and it's not really going the way you want it to go, definitely should join. And so if you heard something today and it resonated, if something shifted in you, even slightly, because sometimes we're looking for like big movements, but even if something just switched on in you today, I definitely want to invite you to inquire about the membership because you were made to be found. And I want to make sure that you are ready when he gets here. So I hope you've enjoyed this session today. If you want to get the replays, just click on the links that are right there. There's a link, pin link there on TikTok. And also it's just streaming here on YouTube and Facebook. Or you can DM me, my DMs are open, and you can get the replay forever. So God bless everyone. I hope you enjoyed this. I've really enjoyed teaching this today, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. All right, bye-bye now.